Okay, well. It's always like a high state of uncertainty, which is great, and especially in this class, it is wonderful to use that. So thank you for being present in the quantum body class, quantum body seminar, as I called it. And today we're actually at the end of our series, Quantum Body, the 8th class in a couple of months. And this time the theme is the 4th dimension. And so Joel wrote a lot about it. He said it is the Christ dimension, and so there are all kinds of references to it. But I'm not too interested in definitions of it, because there's always a limitation connected to that, and so I'm not too concerned with that. But we're going to go on a little adventure, a tour, digging into the dimensional way of, say, experiencing. So the 3D experience, we know this one really well. We're experts at it. We defend it with our life, literally, and so I'm not going to say too much about that. So what is left over to share with you then? So this is exactly where you get an answer to in the next 45 minutes or so. So I promised to start this time with a meditation, and I use a bit of script, a bit of a piece that is really beautifully written. I think it's Master Teacher who wrote it, but it doesn't matter in that sense. It doesn't matter because it will bring you to a place that you have like, oh my God, so great to be reminded of that. At least that is my experience. So I'm gonna dive into that right away with you, of course. Here's my little piece. So it has everything to do with love, to make it easy. It has everything to do with the truth of who you are, in other words. So once I've read this, we'll see what happens. So I probably will ask for some quiet time. Then I come back maybe another time with reading a little bit of it, or just having some words, another quiet moment, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, so be right here. Listen carefully. Stay watchful for the love that is all about you. Come and lay aside the grievances of your old pitifully fearful, helpless self. Come and lay aside the grievances of your old pitiful, fearful, helpless self. You are entering into a brand new, yet very ancient, rapidly accelerating continuum of time, in which you will recognize yourself as a perfect creation of God. I'll repeat it once more. You are entering into a brand new, yet very ancient, but rapidly accelerating continuum of time, in which you will recognize yourself as the perfect creation of God. It is important to remember as you enter this continuum that it is totally impossible for you to meet a stranger anywhere or anytime. The celebrants at this end of time gathering that we're meeting right now, who are sharing the continuing experience of the grace of God, are at last only subjects in the drama of your ongoing temporal reality. You know every celebrant here, and you know them well, for indeed, in whatever form they may appear, they retain for you every loving thought and deed that you have shared since time began. All of them are the vital images contained in the miracle of your own personal rebirth and resurrection. Remember too, this old world of desolation and separation that you have heretofore shared with them, all of these fanciful images in your mutual memories of death that emanated from your momentary incursion into this world are all over and gone, and in fact were all over and gone a very long time ago. They are only the history of a mistake long since passed away and forgotten. Release them from the bondage of time and space that has been fearfully fantasized by your own meaningless temporal identity. Watch them spring to light with you as you fulfill the inevitable revolutionary metamorphosis of your own human identity to the singular universal mind of eternal creating reality. Welcome back then from a journey that went nowhere and in reality took no time at all. For in truth you have never left your home in heaven. Enter graciously into this borderland between time and eternity, with forgiveness and love in your heart, that you may experience the miraculous certainty that you are still only and have always been the perfect, eternal joy and happiness that is the creating mind of God. Welcome home. Welcome back. Thank you. So when you let go of thoughts, emotions, just letting them pass through, when you start to deeply relax and say breathe quietly, deeply into your belly, and release whatever you can. So you in fact create space in your mind for a new experience of yourself. This is your experience, the only thing that matters in this sense. It's impossible to meet a stranger. Love is all around because it is what you are. Releasing the fear of limitation and bondage to space and time. Allowing yourself to enter into a new continuum of love. All right, thank you. Thank you. So this is our start. Great, great. So thank you for joining in that. So to bring back the idea of dimensions, we used yesterday in the meditation prayer that is connected to the fourth dimension that Joel was giving us. And he uses it, say, the illumined state or the Christ dimension. And that is lovely, because if you look at it, and this is immediately also a bit of like history, if you want, like the one-dimensional the first dimension then is the one of place, in fact. And the second one is distance, two spots. And the third dimension is the three-dimensional world. As you know, it's like 3 dimensions, so it has 3 axes. It has a left, up, and a right. So that's doable, So, but it entails a lot. Like, it has to do with everything that you see, your 3-dimensional world. It's all based on a 3-dimensional idea about yourself. And this idea about yourself is where the undoing is taking place in order to have experiences of the next dimension, if you want. So that is the third dimension, and our belief system connected to it is what is going to be undone in order to experience the Christ dimension, so the 4th dimension. But it doesn't stop there. So it's like there's more, of course. So, and then we come at this point to the, say, the theoretical physics, in which is being said, like, no, there's a 5th dimension, there's a 6th dimension, there's a 7th dimension, and on and on and on and on, up to the 11th dimension. See, now, I'm not going to go through all the dimensions and how the, say, theoretical physics is talking about it. But today I encountered one of the expressions of Master Teacher in the spiritual notebook that he wrote at a certain point. So I posted it on the Course in Miracles Instagram. But it's like this. So like, the idea of a dimensional being is great. But in multidimensional being, yes, absolutely. The only problem that you're going to encounter is the fact that you're trying to imagine it coming from your 3-dimensional way of thinking. Well, in that, the all meaning dissolves, in fact. It's like, that's not going to give you any information. And this is, I think, the mystery, if you want, the mystery of the 4th dimension is that you literally cannot explain it in a 3-dimensional way. So all the things that we use, all the words that we use, all the models that we use is still a translation into 3-dimensionality. So that's the same thing as what we saw with the frequencies last week. It's like, you think, as a human being, you think that the visual spectrum is what there is, and you don't know the rest. While it's just one tone of the 88 tones on the piano, so to speak. It's just the E flat that it is. And there's more. There's like so much more. There's a whole spectrum with all kinds of frequencies. And not to give that any 3-dimensional reality. And that's the same with dimensions. It's like, well, we can have great stories and beautiful movies and all kinds of instruction films on YouTube. And I saw a couple of them. But then I realized too, it's like, well, it's still a translation into the visual cortex and into the say, imagery that we know from the 3-dimensional world, like mathematics and all that, so geometrics. And that is not it. That's why you actually can feel that. Like that is no mystery. You can feel the flatness of that. You can feel how flat that is. If I talk about the Christ dimension and it's just an idea of a model of a cube inside a cube that is turning around all the time, it is like, well, no, that's not my Christ experience. You know, so the limitation of the physics has to be that you separate your own feelings off of it in order to give say a mental description of it. So this principle is interesting for me to discover and to see and to share, because you can feel that that is not it. That's the same as talking about something is not what it is. So that's why meditation and having quiet times, having moments in which something can occur, or you feel a shift occurring that has nothing to do with what's being said, helps you, in fact, to even be present here in a meeting on a totally different way, or listen to Joel or to whoever in a whole different way, because you're not going to use your three-dimensional, like, limited vision, but you want to go beyond that. So, and that's the same in listening to me or to Joel, to whoever. Like there's an actual communication going on that has nothing to do with the words that I share. That has nothing to do with what you think it is about. So that is just a limitation. That's putting it in the box that you know. And what you keep safe for yourself in order not to release all that. So this is continuously, like in all ways, and continuously an invitation to go beyond that. That's why we start with the meditation, to have some, say, you can almost call it like some psycho-elasticity, to let go of your fixed beliefs, to let go of habits, of concerns, of all these things that keep you just here in this three-dimensional range that is already over and gone, as we heard before. Like that's already gone, that's over. That's not going to be it, never will be it. It will never satisfy, it will never be it for you. And so quantum body, I think it's great to the quantum sounds at least abstract. That is already helpful. I could call this class something like unspeakable too, and that would come closer to it, what it really represents, than being so specific. In fact, if you know what I mean. So that's interesting. So I want to use this time today for reading a little bit from the Mother. We have used the Mother, Sri Aurobindo, the Mother from Aurobindo, so to speak. We used her experiences as getting to know the other state. She shares about it in a really lovely way, and that's why I love to share from her. You recognize what she's talking about. So here we go, and it's a bit of the last chapter out of the book. This is the book, The Mind of the Cells. It's a book, it has been around for some time. What was it again? I think, in 81 it was originally posted in Paris, I think, because she was speaking French. So I've here the translation into English. Lucky for us. Here, this is very interesting, and you recognize this too, probably. It's as if the two extremes, and then here's the description, a marvelous state and a general decomposition, were there, intermingled. Just everything is becoming disorganized. People, one counted, one giveaway. A general dishonesty seemed to be spreading. At the same time, for a fleeting second, a marvelous, unimaginable state, like the exact opposite. As if that's what is trying to take the place, but the rest defends itself fiercely. So all the circumstances are like that. Everyone is like that. From the government to the people here. Then this marvelous state, it comes into my body for a few minutes and then goes away. There. that's what I live at night and during the day ceaselessly. 3 minutes of splendor for 12 hours of misery. That is the extent to which the world is not what it should be, is becoming very acute. That is the extent to which the world is not what it should be, is becoming very acute. Usually one says there's a mixture of good and bad things, but all that is childishness. The good things are worth no more than the bad. It's not that. The divine is something else. So in this short moment of sharing from her, she gives way to two ways of experiencing yourself. So one is the flat, three-dimensional expression of you being in your daily life. And then the other state, as she talks about, is then the moments that you're lifted out of this, coming into the realization, or coming into light and love for a moment. And then falling back into the misery, or as he calls it, like the different quality. So, and this is great. So it's not like I'm in a good state or I'm in a bad state. No, it's like one feels as the real state and the other seems like futile and senseless and meaningless. And then you have a moment that you're being lifted out of that again. So going into the other dimension, if you want. And so this is part of our journey here, as you know. It's like you meditate, you take moments of quiet to open yourself up for a different experience of yourself. Not that you can consciously control that, but you can become open and willing to have a different experience of yourself. And then suddenly that happens, and feels great that you're feeling like purpose, connectedness, love and peace for just a moment. And then suddenly something is attracting your attention and you see that you're in this three-dimensional definition of yourself again. And then the obvious question is like, how can you stay up there? How can you stay up there? And so she wrote something about that, what we just read. It's like, no, it's like, it's the other way around. It's like you're actually allow yourself to be lifted out of this. And the rest of the time you defend yourself literally not to have an experience of the totality of who you are. And that defense slowly but certainly will be released, will go. So if you have a day in which you have an, say, holy instant, in which you have a different experience of yourself, you feel like you're being lifted out of this, you see the value of that for you. But it can be that you, say, not go back into that experience for another couple of weeks or a couple of days or a couple of hours. That really depends on your willingness and your defense against the truth. So we're on the spiritual path, obviously. We're training ourselves to do this. Sure, absolutely. So the only obstacle is then, in fact, you. Is your three-dimensional experience of yourself. It is deeply ingrained into your physicality. It is, however that is for you too. You will have your own experiences with it like you have. And you have had them lifetimes. So the undoing of that is taking place. So the release of the defenses, stir up some serious defense, and you have to take time for yourself to allow this to occur, and be willing and be open. Training that to be willing to have something else occur. So that's something you can train, as you know. And so it's great that the mother is sharing that too. It's like so recognizable. So what we're presenting here is not like, okay, so how can we go forever into the fourth dimension? Because that is the same as asking something of yourself that is too much and not realistic to ask of yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, that's not going to work. So the only thing that increases then is probably your defense and your attack against it, instead of your openness and willingness to slide into it. So that's why we have these moments, these holy instances, or these moments that we allow something else to occur. We slow down our mind and quiet down our thoughts. We allow everything to come up, but we're not doing anything with it. And seeing that there's a possibility for a different experience of ourselves, just starting this feeling that, oh my God, yes, indeed, love is everywhere. It's all around. I can't believe it. I missed it. I totally missed it because I was so busy defending myself or wanting something, desiring something, or already knowing something. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? So it is totally different to talk about the fourth dimension in this way, isn't it? It's like you want to have experiences, and yet you're the only thing that's in the way of it. Yeah, so you have to laugh about that too. It's like it's a joke, really. It's a joke. It's okay. It's okay. You forgive yourself. That's where the power will be. You know, that's where your progress will be made. You forgive yourself for that, what you're doing, for resisting truth. How crazy is that? But you accept that. It's okay. I'm taking time. Like, there's no time in eternity. There's no time in the fourth dimension. So luckily, you're never too late. So I can see that in my own, say, process, being gentle with myself, having people remind me to be gentle with myself, not to push, not to force, not to thinking that I have to be in a different place than I find myself. So in a state of coming into a state of acceptance is going to be, it's like, at least for me, it is very helpful. Like, yeah, allow all that and still try again try a willingness again, try to be open, see what happens. 5 minutes later, okay, try again. Maybe 10 minutes later, try again. Or too much defense, okay, 5 minutes later, try again. You know, so this is what I mean with being gentle with yourself. There's no sense in judging yourself in where you find yourself, because what are you doing then? You're making it real. You're making your defenses real. That's not necessary. So that they will dissolve, and you will disappear into the fourth dimension. So I'll read what I read yesterday too from Joel, because that's actually a really lovely part. And since we have time to do this, as I always say here in class, like, we have time to do this. We reserve some time, like we put some time aside to listen to all this. The attainment of the fourth dimensional, this is from the parenthesis in eternity, the attainment of the fourth dimensional or illumined consciousness is the secret of harmonious, abundant and gracious living without strife and struggle, completely free from the material sense of life. this freedom of the illumined is really a freedom from ignorance, because only the ignorant can cleave to the belief that life is dependent on things and people in the external realm. Is not the whole material sense a life characterized by a faith, hope and reliance on the external? To believe that life is dependent on a heart and sustained by food alone, by physical heart and by food alone, or that strength is dependent on the development of muscles. In short, to believe that life is subject to or dependent on anything or any thought is material sense. So the real trigger then to having like the motivation factor is the description that you try to imagine about the fourth dimension. Gracefully living, abundance, no concerns, no struggle, all the things that you normally do, you don't have to do there. Wow, that sounds like a heaven on earth. So it is a motivation to get into it, or get into the direction of it. That's why you do it too. So, and that's the same with ideas of illumination. It's a great thing to put in front of you. It's like, yeah, that's my strive, or that's what I would love to develop or something. And then actually all that is not going to bring you there. It is not going to do that for you in that sense. So it is the other way around. It's always the same. It's like it's not that way. It's the other way around. You don't have to look for the love. You are what love is. Dum-dum. You are what love is. So you don't have to look for it. And it's the same with this. It's like everything here is your abundance. It is present here. Not in the definition that you give it. That was the only abstraction, your definition of it. Connectedness is right here. What you've been doing so far is denying it. Otherwise you would enjoy it. It would just be there for you. Struggle and strive. To accomplish what? And especially when? When are you going to accomplish something that is not accomplished right now? What thing do you think to achieve in the future that is not already given now? See, that already helps you to release the idea of attainment, of going for a goal, trying to achieve a goal, having a desire for something, thinking that you don't have that now. So if it's gonna come to you in the future, we said this the other day too, is like if it's gonna come to you in the future, it must be temporal. It's not gonna be that what you're looking for. It will not satisfy. It will not give you that. So you can say then the other way around too, that entering the fourth dimension is a recognition. It is not a change at all. It's like it's a recognition that that is the only thing that really is there. Like there's your Christ awareness. It is the only thing that is there. You will see it in everyone you meet. You will see it in everywhere you go. It has nothing to do with your description of it or with anything that you try to defend and make real for yourself. If you have to make it real, it is not real. So yeah, I know it's a repetition. Of course it is. Of course it is. I'm actually saying the same thing over and over again from different angles, sure, but it's still the same story. It's like it is realized now, or it's never going to be realized. You know, so that's an intention that you can actually not bear as a human being, because you immediately will have an idea about that you failed, that you missed it, that it's for everyone but not for you. And all this victimization that you're used to, that fits into the three-dimensional thinking as you know it. Or that you must have been separated by God. He must have thrown you out of heaven because you apparently are not in it now. So you probably never return. And in the true sense, that is true. So there's no way out for you here. There's no way out. There's no way out of the three dimension as you see it. Now you're locked into the bondage of space and time. You're completely locked in. There's not a thought that can help you out of it. So sit with that for a moment, contemplate that. See, this is in fact your black hole where you enter into. There's no way out. There's no way you're going to get this. Absolutely not. If you don't get it now, forget it. It will never happen. Yeah. So how can I help? How can I serve? Help you to die? Help you to die in your humanhood? Oh yeah, please. Yeah, please. So I hope this was a little help. So cutting your wrists is not going to help it. Jumping off a building is not going to help you. Yeah, you name it. Shooting somebody or shooting yourself is not going to do it. You have to do the same story again. We tried that. It didn't work. That's why we're here. So literally there's no way out of this. Isn't that great? And the total acceptance of the no solution is in fact what will help you out of it. There's no way out of this. Absolutely not. Completely locked in forever. So the total acceptance of that will give you all dimensions at your feet. Well, that's different. That's different than I expected too. Like, well, I could have like made such a nice talk out of this, but that's not what's happening. So, yeah, now what? Now what you're gonna do? Wow, that's great. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you for letting me say that to you. That's really great. And so in that, see, that's where the story ends in that sense. The story ends there. There's no solution to this. So that is your portal to the fourth dimension, really. Yeah, absolutely. So if I speak about the fourth dimension and give a description of it, that's not going to be it. The ways to get there is not going to help you in any way, because it is not, say, translatable into a three-dimensional language. So it must be a miracle to get there. It is a miraculous occurrence to experience that. And of course you don't like that, because you love to control where you find yourself. You love to control that. You like, okay, I want a coffee, here's a coffee. And you want that satisfaction, like the immediate gratification that you're used to. You want that, otherwise you start to scream and shout. It's like, well, it's not working. I need to blah, blah, whatever the solution is that you temporarily use. So here there's no solution and you will have to accept it. It will not gratify immediately, but your patience is going to do the work, the miracle. Your infinite patience will bring an immediate result to that. All right, so that's great. So I'll leave it here, putting you right at the doormat, so to speak. I'm going to leave it right here. So thank you so much for allowing me to do this with you and allowing me to share this with you. And here, the quantum body class is really ending at the beginning. So I'm really happy that you're part of it, that you ended up here with me, and yes, we do need that miracle for us to be taken out of this, and that's your birthright. So you're entitled to that. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for joining in this, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.